Good morning, everybody. This is your old pal Trav back to do another installment on budgeting. Now that we've talked about it, and your job is to sit down in April or May, whenever you get around to beginning this process. And now you've got a full month of where your money goes. We're going to talk about three things today, things that you can either trim or cut. I kind of use those words interchangeably. Cut does not mean eliminate. Eliminate will stand for that. And then I'd also like to talk about expenses you're going to very, very easily forget about. So let's start with that first. If you sat down and you've got a full month worth of receipts and where you spent your money, and now you've got it all planned out, and you can see where to trim, cut, or eliminate, the one thing I want to remind you about is some stuff that will not immediately come to mind for you. And if you'll permit me, I kind of made myself some notes because even I will forget them. So just to give you an example, if I were starting this in April, then there is something that happens in April that I will not see again for the entire rest of the year. And that would be Kristen's birthday. Now, I've already bought her gifts, so she's not getting anything else on her birthday. Sorry, babe. But that's only a one-time-a-year event, and we often forget to plan for those. And even people who make good budgets and learn to adhere to them find months where the amount of money they spend goes from like here to here, and then they're kind of like, what the hell? Where'd all my extra money go? So I wrote down a few things that do not recur every month, but they are things that will either have to be paid for, should pay for, or that you feel are essential. For me and Kristen, we feel that pest control is essential. That is $89, and it's only once a quarter, which means once every 3 months. So when I'm sitting down and looking at my budget, if the pest control company didn't come that month, I'm not spending that $89, but every 3 months I am. People don't plan for birthdays, and a lot of people that I help start to get themselves a little bit of a cash cushion, get some breathing room. And the next thing you know, depending on your family dynamic, you could have a birthday 1 month and then 3 months later have another one that you need to buy a gift for. There is Christmas, which is another big one, where people want to buy their loved ones and their children and their nieces and nephews gifts. And these things, you don't see them every month. And then all of a sudden they come out of nowhere. There's two schools of thought on this. And one is that you take the dollar amount and you break it down by month. So for me, I should set back like $29 a month every month for pest control. I'm going to just diverge here real quick and tell you all that when you get your emergency fund set up, I recommend Ally Bank, ALLY. Their personal savings account has a rate of 2.2%, and you can transfer that money from Ally into your bank within 3 days. Now, what I've done is go a step further. Ally also has a money market account, and Ally will let you open as many accounts as you want. There is no limit, and there's no minimum balance. So your money market account will come with a debit card and checks. But I want to preface this by saying that if you have a money market, you can only make 6 transactions a month per federal law without incurring a penalty, and that penalty is $10. So I probably should have gotten it out in advance, not in here, shit's in my wallet. I have a little Ally Bank debit card. And then I also have my Ally Bank checks. And what I do is I opened an emergency fund with Ally Bank, which was their savings account at a 2.2% interest rate. And then you can nickname your account. I nicknamed it Emergency Fund. And then you could have a money market account at a 0.9% interest rate for things that come up like my pest control that's every quarter. Or if you're a female and you get your hair done every 6 to 8 weeks, that money could go into the money market account where it would still get 0.9%, but then you could run your debit card or write a check for that amount. And I would highly encourage you to save for things for a year apart, like Christmas and birthdays, in the savings account, and then transfer that to the money market account, because that's instant. You can do it in real time on the app, and then the debit card will work. So the only reason you would keep money for like the short term, like every 90-day things or whatever in the money market, is because if I transfer money from savings at Ally to my money market, that's one of my 6 transactions. Then If I run the debit card to pay for that, like let's say I've been putting money back for Kristen's birthday in my savings for a year to get that 2.2% versus 0.9, when I transfer the money from the Ally savings to Ally checking, there goes one transaction out of my six. And then the second thing is when I run it. So I advise using the money market as little as possible because you only get 6 transactions. And sometimes waiting that 3 days to get a hold of your emergency fund is not good. If you blow a tire out on a Monday and you need to get that done, it might be inconvenient to wait 3 days to get the money out of your savings account into your regular bank. Hence why I recommend opening the dual accounts at Ally. On top of that, you could even open a third account, which would be your second Ally savings account, and put things in there that are designated for birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries, things of that nature. But you need to account for those in your monthly budget. Otherwise, you're going to sit down at the end of the month and say, well, now that I've got this new budget, I've cut, trimmed, and I finally got some breathing room, you're going to find a month where all that breathing room just goes away, or the breathing room goes away and then plus some. So keep that in mind if that's confusing, or I'm trying to make this as basic as I can for you, but you need that money set aside because you're going to have events come up that don't come up every single month. Okay. So, for us guys, you got Valentine's Day, you should know your significant other's birthday, when Christmas is. So you need to sit down and just list that stuff out and say, well, if I want to spend this amount of money every year on, like if I said for Kristen's birthday gift, then I need to find out how much is that per month that needs to go into my Ally savings account. And then that becomes a line item in my budget, savings for Kristen's birthday. And you just have to account for it. I know Oklahoma and Kentucky are the same, in which once a year, you got to go pay that stupid fee to get your new registration, your new car tag. And so you've got to think past the things that just occur every month and start thinking about the things that happen a few times a year. You don't want those to pop up one month and eat up a lot of your budget. Okay. So now that we've talked about those and gotten those out of the way, I want to discuss with you all what to do in terms of cutting or trimming and eliminating. Now, once you sat down, we said last time, certain things aren't going to change. Mortgage payments, car insurance, the electric bill goes up and down, like we're electric and gas. So in the summer, electric's crazy, gas is cheap. And in the winter, it flips. You've got to find the spots that you can cut. And a lot of those are what most financial planners call discretionary spending, okay? So if you got to have toothpaste, but do you need the most expensive whitening, foaming, whatever toothpaste that's on the market? That's up to you. For me, I told you all I went from using Listerine to the Target brand, saved me spending $8 to $4. And you have to go line by line and start deciding what can go, okay? And I did some just quick back of the envelope calculations and just I came up with a small number just to prove a point. But $20 compounded at 8% over 20 years gets close to $1,000. Okay, so every $20 that you can take back and invest and have it grow for you is going to be worth a whole hell of a lot more money down the road than it is today. Economists call it the delayed consumption of wants. We are delaying consuming things that are a want and not a need. So you've heard one of mine with Listerine. I used to use the Dove Men's Care exfoliating soap bars. It was $10 for 4 of them. I switched to Dial. It's like $4 or $5 for 12. I think I'm just as clean. Kristen buys some off-brand stuff that she keeps in the fridge. You can also go a step further and look at, do you really need cable? Could you get by with YouTube TV or something else? Could you, if you're a female, make haircuts go longer? That way you're buying less of them a year. Do you need your internet bill to be as fast as it is for what you do in your household? And then there's things that you could just look at eliminating. Do you have a gym membership you don't use? Do you subscribe to like Apple Music or Spotify but never really get around ever turning it on? Things of that nature. They can just be flat out eliminated and taken out. But when you're doing this, like I told y'all before, it's hard to think about because when you're going to need this money and when you're sick and old and decrepit, it's way, 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 way down the road. And it's hard to sit down now and go, do I really want to get rid of cable right now? And my question would be, are you going to remember what happened on American Idol in 20 years from now? I doubt it. And to me, it's looking long term, not worth it. So you have to begin to cut and eliminate things that you spend on a monthly basis that are absolutely not necessary to your way of life. Some people that I help are in a place where we sit down and we just start marking off things very easily, and we very quickly uncover like $150 a month. Other people that might make less money, it's very difficult, and it has to come down to making a decision to give something up that's important. I have encouraged friends to look at what are called MVNO cell phone carriers. They are mobile virtual network operators, and they rent space from the big boys. And if you Google search best MVNO 2019, it'll tell you the plans, what they cost, and whose network they are using. And you might just have to go down to a defined data plan. And I have told people before, you, at the financial point you are in your life, have lost the freedom to watch YouTube at a restaurant. Sorry, that's the way it is. Sometimes you are going to make cuts that change your everyday behaviors, but once you get used to it, you don't miss as much. If you told me today I cannot watch any streaming video outside of my home Wi-Fi, or if I'm lucky, the Wi-Fi in a place, I think I would survive. I mean, I might be kind of annoyed for a month or two, but I think I would forget about it. Do you have to have cable television? Over the Air offers over 40 TV channels right now, and it's a way better alternative. But this is an individual thing for you and your significant other or your family to sit down and really have a hard conversation with yourself on, what do I really need and what do I want? And what I want is to not retire at 70 years old and be in a state-run nursing home. What I don't want is the ability to not buy nice shoes when they come out. So I have got my savings stuff set up in such a way that I've accommodated these things. Now, based on your own situation, there might be some painful eliminations. Like I said, getting an MVNO for a cell phone carrier with 5 gigs of data a month. And that's for things like, I need directions real quick. I have to hop online and look up a phone number. That might just be the world you live in for a couple of years until either your income gets better or your credit card debt comes down. And that's going to be later, because you have to include those payments to your credit card here. And if I'm speaking, and I'm going to treat my Facebook group of the people who watch this as an average American, the average American carries over $6,000 in recurring credit card debt. Okay. For some people, that's going to be a number where they go, oh shit, that's a lot of money. And for other people, they're going to go, that's nothing. I recently walked somebody through bankrupting $72,000 in credit card debt. For some people, that just baffles them. There's probably others of you out there that might have 20s, 30s, 40s, $50,000. But you've got to get rid of that so that then it's not a big deal to have an unlimited cell phone plan or HBO or whatever you want to call it. So you've got to keep track of these little scratch paper, non-monthly recurring expenses and account for them. Then you also need to account for freeing up money. The more money we free up, the quicker we get your credit card debt gone, the quicker we can get you an emergency fund, the quicker we can get you putting money to work for you. And I'm telling you now, with experience after experience over all these years and people I've helped, when they get that first $500 and then $1,000 set back at Ally, they get, pardon the phrase, very Jewish about it. They blow a tire and they do not want to touch it. It's psychologically, when you only have $42.08 left, it's really easy to just say, fuck it, go see a movie. When you're sitting on $1,000 and somebody asks you for $250 of that to pay for something, you kind of don't want to give up that $1,000. You want to hang on to that. So it's a mindset flip if we can get you to a place where you've got some extra money lying around. So April, tracking everything you spend, every dime. You're going to have to sit down on the side, figure out Christmases, birthdays, for me, pest control, for women, haircuts or getting your nails done. And then you're going to have to sit down and start going line by line and going, well, I can't get rid of rent, can't not pay my car payment, can't not pay the water bill. And you're going to have to scoot all those expenses to the side, and that money's gone. And what you're left with are the things that can be trimmed down, cut, or in some cases, eliminated. And in the worst cases, painfully eliminated. But painful elimination of something is only a short-term problem. If you couldn't get your nails done for 1 year, I guarantee you not much in your life would change. If you could not have mobile data streaming video because you don't have enough in your data plan to watch a YouTube clip at fucking Applebee's, I guarantee you it's not going to hurt you that much. But all those things add up to money that in the next month or so, I'm going to take and help you start getting your ass out of debt, because right now you're a slave to that person. Credit cards can sue you for non-payment. You can try to go the route of bankruptcy, but it's going to be on your credit for 10 years. So the goal is to look at a piece of paper and go, well, I've got all these things, and I got to start crossing off the ones I can't eliminate. And then you have to look at all the things that are changeable. And then that's where you trim them back, cut them down, eliminate them altogether, or painfully eliminate them. So if you have questions about what to eliminate and how to think about this stuff, shoot it to me. I'd be glad to help you out. I have been there. I will tell y'all, when I was married to my first wife, we got about $25,000 in credit card debt, and we paid it off in just over a year. But that 1 year was hell. And here I am, 17 years later. That 1 year, I barely even remember it. But I know we never ate out. We didn't go see any movies, So after you got in your budget, after you know where your money's going, now it's time to do the hard part. And we've got to cut and eliminate. I know the part about Allied Bank was a bit much to throw into this one thing, but I wanted to get that out there for you all so you could put that money somewhere to plan for. If I said that my budget for Kristen is $200 on a birthday, there was no reason to leave $200 sitting in a no-interest checking account. I might as well just send it out to Ally and let it make 2.2% a year until her birthday gets here. No reason for it not to work for me. So make your list based on your receipts and your debits and all that from April, and then think about the things that don't happen every month. Card tag renewal, the cost to prepare your income taxes every year, birthdays, Christmases, haircuts, pest control. And you might even have to look back through your checking account and debit card history online for a while to go, when was the last time I spent something? Oh shit, forgot about pest control. Well, got to add that in. Those things have to be added. And I'd like for you to be able to have the money there so that when that day does pop up, it's, oh, here you go, I've already got it for you. So that'll do it for today. We're kind of ahead if you think about it mentally. If you all are going to save all your receipts for April, and you're going to get a list of all your non-monthly expenses, and you're going to start breaking it down and comparing it to what you make, you're not going to be going through this process until May. So then once May comes, May is your month where you begin to make those cuts, trims, and eliminations, and then can move forward with what we're going to talk about next, which is the balancing act of paying off credit card debt and getting some money set back for emergencies. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a small hint now. A lot of people read Dave Ramsey, and I have no issue at all with what Dave does. However, that system does not work for everybody, because money is a mental thing, okay? It's all in your head. I read somewhere that people that impulse spend, it's because it triggers dopamine. When we acquire something brand new and shiny and just out of the box, the part of the brain that releases the endorphin dopamine, which leads to happiness, does go up. And so everybody's different. It's not going to affect everyone the same way. So, people will tell me all the time, well, Dave Ramsey says buy everything in cash. That's fine. And if you want to go down that road, it's not for me. I could never do it. But we have to get you to a point we find a system that does work for you. So I will tell you that while I am a huge advocate of paying off your credit cards as fast as is humanly possible, I'm also an advocate of you don't do that at the expense of putting no cash back for an emergency. Because now all you're going to do when you hit one is add money back onto the thing that we've paid down and is charging you a lot of interest. So I am more of a 50-50 guy. I want you to find enough room in your budget to begin to amass some savings for an emergency while paying off your credit cards. Okay. So if you don't like that 50-50 approach and you don't like the credit card debt, and that's the main thing on your mind, then go the Dave Ramsey approach and don't put any money into savings. My fear on that road is you pay down $1,000 and have to turn around and put 400 back on that credit card. And that can be, for some people, a setback, and it can be disheartening, and it can throw them off track, because now once they've spent money on the credit card again, why is another 50 for a new shirt on there really that bad? I mean, I just did 400, and then it kind of snowballs back into that debt cycle again of buying things on credit you don't need. So you'll hear from me later this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, on how I do it. And I do it about a 50-50 split. And I'll tell you how and which cards and what debt I would prefer to eliminate first, and where to put your emergency savings, which you already know, hint, hint, Ally Bank. But I do it in tandem, because I think it's good to have that safety net of some cash and see that grow from 50 to 300 to $500 while your credit card balances are still coming down, because you feel more secure. Being financially secure is not about just the things that you don't have yet. It's the things that you don't ever have to worry about. And, like I told you, 1 in 20 Americans can put their hands on $500. That means 19 out of 20 of us have to worry about something that hasn't even happened yet. Always worried about it. So that'll do it for today. You're tracking your expenses. Don't forget your non-monthly recurring expenses. And don't forget, when you sit down and look at this, things that you can cut back on, trim, or eliminate. And if you get down and you've eliminated $18 a month, then I'm telling you now, tough love, you need to go back and do painful elimination and do something that's uncomfortable, because time is something you're never going to get back. And the earlier you start, the better you are. There's an old saying, and I'll leave you all with this. A 20-year-old starts putting back a certain amount of money in the stock market. When I say the market, I mean the S&P 500, and we'll talk about that later. But they start putting a certain amount of money into the S&P 500, and they do that from the time they're 20 to the time when they're 30, and they stop. And on the same day that the 20-year-old started, a 30-year-old started putting the exact same amount of money into the S&P 500. Except for, instead of stopping after 10 years, they continue to do this all the way to 60. Okay, so 30 years. The 20-year-old has more money at the end, because of the extra 10 early years of compounding that they got that the other person didn't. So, and I'm sorry, I messed that story up. When the 20-year-old starts, the 30-year-old does not. The 30-year-old starts when the 20-year-old turns 30. Sorry, because then there's that extra 10-year gap. And that 10 years is a massive amount of money. It's a lot. In the study that I read, it was that people were saving $1,000 a month. And these numbers will be roughly correct, that the 20-year-old ended up with a little over $750,000, and the 60-year-old had somewhere around $600,000. So it's about $150,000 bonus for that person starting 10 years earlier. So that's why I say, if you tell me I only was able to whittle out $18, $40, $50 a month extra, then I'm going to tell you, tough shit, you're back to the painful part. And we're going to have to just either eliminate some things for a little while, even if it's temporary, or make some tougher moves. So if you have any questions, if you get stuck, if you can't decide what to do, if you're trying to weigh some things out, if you're trying to find ways to save money that you're just getting stuck on and you would like some opinion, hit me up, just Facebook Messenger me. I don't mind answering any questions anybody has. And then later this week, we're going to move on to what happens once you got this extra chunk of cash on hand at the end of every 2 weeks and every month, and how we begin the process of getting you out of every bit of credit card debt, every bit of it, and starting to build some cash on the side, so we can eventually get you to the point where you have a 6-month emergency fund and you're doing some investing and getting to watch that grow. So you all enjoy your Sunday. Have a good weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much.